Those who aren't familiar, all right, yeah, got it. Those who aren't familiar with the ASAP board, it's Agency for Substance Abuse Policy, and it's brought into four different sectors: recovery. Let's see what else we got: enforcement, and then we have harm reduction and prevention. And one of the main things I focus on is prevention. And so some of the ways we do that with schools, especially with youth, is we offer a drug-free Lex art and essay scholarship. So those who have been affected by substance use from their family or mental health and suicide, and how they overcome those personal struggles or their family struggles, have the opportunity of being able to participate in this essay scholarship. Um, as you can see over here on the left side, there's the prompt for what we're looking for. And we're having this is a fourth annual one. This is available for Fayette County schools for high school seniors. And we have a QR code at the bottom right here where they can easily access this whenever it shows up. It's just a Google form pretty much. I don't know if it's going to show up or not. It might take a little bit of time. Right here. It gives students understanding of what we're looking for both for the essay and then art scholarship. They have the opportunity to pick either one that they want, their name, gender, race and ethnicity, as well as where they plan on where they're graduating, where they're going to for higher education. And that higher education could be a college or it could be a trade school. And then at the bottom, their art essay work be right there. Another opportunity that we have is a youth committee. This is something that's very new to us. We just started it probably a month back. We figured that, drug-free Lex's mission is for prevention of misuse of substances and the overall impact of those substances. And we know that these substances are very focused on youth. And if we know that there's great work being done by youth in our community, so if in the prevention field, if our work is affecting youth, the youth need to have a voice. And so we know that there's a lot of great leaders throughout Fayette County schools, and also great groups that are doing work for substance use prevention and also mental health promotion. And we want to bring that committee together. So what we're looking for is we have an advisory council, is finding those groups and leadership throughout Fayette County and bringing them all together, creating an action plan, some of the objective strategies and activities, which we can bring these youth together and collaborate. So yeah, and I guess the big picture goal is to have these students affecting policy with the work that they're doing, also being able to collaborate with one another and their peers throughout Fayette County, and then also having a voice at the table when we're doing these drug-free Lex meetings. The final thing that I'm going to be talking about today, and then I'm going to swing it over to Lori, is the Alternative to Suspension program that we're doing in Fayette County that we piloted at Lori's school. It's called In Depth. So for those who don't know what Alternative to Suspension is, it's a route for students who were caught with vapes, nicotine vapes, and sometimes marijuana in those vapes. So instead of suspension and missing class, the students have opportunity for an alternative route, and that's learning more about nicotine and tobacco use. So that's 4 sessions, 50 minutes long, led by a facilitator. So what New Vista did to help Leestown was pay a stipend to these facilitators. I think there was 2 throughout the year, and we helped pay for them to teach this class to students that were caught vaping instead of them being suspended. And looking through here's some of the data that Leestown found once it loads. So we looked at a couple of different components. So one was the completion rate for the class, the in-depth class, and majority of people that participated did complete the class. I think it was out of, so eighth grade, they had 15 students participate, 13 completed the course. Seventh grade, 10 students enrolled, eight successfully finished, and then sixth grade was 3 students took the course and 2 completed. And so what this was doing and what the main objective is instead of the punitive route, it's more of a rehabilitation restorative route, and where students aren't missing class for being offenders of vaping nicotine. And so they can be in class and also learning about what the harmful consequences of nicotine and vaping are. So out of the 22 students that were caught with vaping and participated in the program, only 1 student reoffended, meaning they got caught with a vape for a second time. And then also how we want students to be in class. The 22 students who completed the course, only 2 failed a class, compared to those 5 students who did not complete the course, they failed 4 classes. And so those can be a variety of different reasons why they failed the class, but we do want students in classes and being able to learn not only about nicotine, but also when we usually do suspend students, when they get home, they're just going to be vaping instead of learning about the consequences of it. And yeah, that's all I have. Lori, if you want to talk a little bit more about, what you felt about the program.
Yeah, sorry, I've got a little bit of a throat thing going on today, so hopefully I don't sound terrible, but yeah, we saw a huge vaping problem in the 22-23 school year. And so we wanted to come up with some type of way to help students who were having vaping issues. So we learned from Lane that he had this program going on, or he had some funding that he could help us with. So we applied and were successful in getting that grant from them. And it's a bit of it's kind of a lot getting it all set up and getting all the MOAs signed and all that. It does take a little bit of a time, but we finally got started, and we started in about October. And we had, 28 students who were referred to the program throughout the school year. And, initially a lot of them were eighth graders. We noticed that most of our kids were eighth graders that were being caught. And the majority of them were just nicotine vapes. There were some THC ones, but for the most part, it was nicotine. So the in-depth program was what we went with because it's mostly geared toward nicotine. So our health teacher agreed to be the teacher for the class. And so we started her sessions on Wednesdays after school for about 50 minutes. And the in-depth program, like you said, has 4 sessions. So students were required by their administrators to go to the 4 sessions. Now, the way we did that were students that were caught, especially our administrator in 8th grade was very strict about this. They would be on hallway restriction until they've completed the program, which was kind of an incentive for them to do that. So as soon as they were caught, he would talk to the parent and tell the parent that if the student attended the program, then, they would have days taken off of their suspension. So, it kind of varied depending on the situation, but typically if a kid was caught vaping and they would have been out of school for 3 days, then he would either convert the 3 days to all in school suspension, or maybe 1 day out, 2 days in. It just kind of depended on, what the situation was, because they kind of can be different, as we all know. If the kid brought the vape and was the one that was passing it around to everybody, they might have a little bit more of a penalty than the other kids that were just in the bathroom with them that decided to try it. So that's kind of how it got started. So he would give me the names, and then I would send a letter home stating that the student, had to attend the classes. This is when the classes will begin, and what the original consequence was going to be versus what it's now since they're participating in the program. And surprisingly, not very many people brought those letters back. So I'd have to call the parents and, make sure that they knew what was happening. And so we were pretty successful in getting kids to stay after on Wednesdays to do the program, because they really did not like having somebody being called every time they needed to leave the classroom to go and take them to the bathroom or wherever they needed to go. So that was pretty successful. Then we really noticed about after the first semester, there were no more eighth graders that were getting caught, because he was very strict and very consistent with the rules that were being, enforced. So it seemed like after that we got more seventh graders, and then our seventh grade administrator kind of had to lay the law down, and that became the group that was number one in being caught. So it really does seem that this having the other things involved too makes them more likely to participate in the program. Now, we did have kids who could not come, and so what we ended up having to do with that was during uh, our health teacher's planning, she would pull them from what class they were in, and she would do sessions with them then. This year we've kind of gotten away from that because we didn't really want the kids missing first period, because that's still their core content time. So this year we've moved it into our Fun Friday. So if you get caught, and you can't stay after school, then you have to miss Fun Friday. Well, they don't like that either. So they they're more likely to try and stay after school this year. But last year, we had a lot of success with it. Our suspension time was reduced from 56 days to just 20. So that was positive. 36 school days were saved. And our in-school suspension time for that was, they would have missed 147 instructional hours, but they only ended up missing 84. And it was it was hard sometimes to measure when he would, instead of having 3 days out of school, he would transfer it to in school, and got a little wonky I ended up having to just count the hours. So it, we finally figured out how to make that work. Um, so anyway, like Lane said, we only had one student who reoffended, and we had one student from last year who reoffended from this year. So we did have that. But just one. I mean, that's pretty good out of all the sixth and seventh graders we had last year. Um, Now this year has been a little bit of a different beast. This year, it seems like all of our kids are getting busted with THC. So that's kind of a whole different ball game, and in depth really doesn't can't use in THC. That's not the focus. So our health teacher, fortunately, is very skilled, so she's been able to pull in some things that she has just of her own information that she's adapted. So also, we really were trying to get in depth online, but the American Lung Association is who runs in depth. So we had to try to get an MOA, and they aren't, they haven't responded. So we found a different online program that we're going to try to use for those kids who cannot stay after school. And this program is a little bit more involved and engaging, so we're trying to use that program. And so we're piloting that as far as an overall prevention program for the school, and a program that is used for alternative to suspension. So another thing that kind of changed, I mean, one thing that is good is that it really did have a chilling effect on this year. Before winter break, we had only had 12 kids who who were caught, which is pretty impressive. So, one thing that we do at the beginning of our school year, we have something called the Leestown Way. And so every student goes through different workshops during the day to help them understand, our culture and climate here and our guidelines for success. So one of them was about substances and vaping. And so during that session, we talked heavily about how if you are caught vaping, you will have to do this program. And so I think that along with knowledge that they really will make you do this program, has kind of had a bit of a chilling effect on this year. So that's a good thing. So the kids do the 4 sessions, and it's kind of nice because they get a relationship. They build a relationship with our health teacher, and she kind of checks in on them after they've done the program. Are you doing okay? Is there anything we need to do? So it's been pretty useful. Now she kind of gets a feeling for what kids need to be referred on to another type of program, because this is beyond, they're just experimenting. We have a problem with vaping. So she's been able to refer some people on out to I think it's the Red Cross. They have a ongoing program that she's been able to connect them with. So that's kind of our program in a nutshell. One thing that is really important is your administrators have got to be on board. If they're not, it's really difficult because you feel like you're spinning your wheels. And that with 4 different administrators, in our building, who are all great, but sometimes, this kind of gets forgotten. So I'm always having to chase them down and remind them. And the kids, the day of, I always have to go in during lunch and give them a sheet of paper and remind them, because this is the top group of people who like to avoid and evade, I've noticed. And it seems like they're never in class either. So it takes some dedication to be able to keep this going, that's for sure. So that's kind of what we've been doing. So if anybody has any questions or anything, I'm happy to answer anything.
You're welcome to come off mute with questions, or if you want to put them in the chat, I can voice them for you.
And I also put in the chat just different things we talked about today and the resources. I know I sometimes forget when a presenter's talking, and it's nice to have resources to look back at over later.
Yes, and I copied those links, so if anybody needs them, just let me know. Thank you both so much. I am hopeful that others will take advantage of this program. And working with Blaine and prevention and mental health promotion. So thanks for jumping on and meeting him. And Lori, thank you so much for giving us that school perspective too. Without further ado, I will let you go about your all's day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank y'all. Have a great.
Hey, Rainey, did you get my email about your pediatric?
I did. I've been in a meeting all morning, so I haven't responded.
That's okay.
Let me